Now we're going to divide this into two major sections. And we're going to take the top one, which is the ending, which is this, and then opening it up just so you can see it better to make it bigger, but it's exactly what that is, just in a bigger font. We're now going to go back through it and think it through in a little more detail. In other words, we're going to start at the top and work our way back through this. We've already figured this out in a lot of detail, but we're going to think it through in a little more detail. It now becomes necessary to develop a little more detail, but only a little more detail, not too much. And you'll see this in action. Okay, so we're going to start at the top and work our way down. So we take the top. Casey recites the 256-character code that decrypts the files which convict the cabal. And we're going to visualize it, think it through in a little more detail, flesh it out. So we're going to start with the object. Casey's testimony unlocks the encrypted files that convict the criminal cabal. The final effect that demonstrates that on screen with real actors, the leaders of the criminal cabal are taken away to a black site prison for treason. So presumably they did something that violated national security, so they're not just going to a normal prison, but to a black site prison, the kind of thing that the CIA puts terrorists in. The immediate cause of that, the tribunal verifies that the documents are real and they're staggered by them. See how we're seeing this in a little more detail. We're fleshing it out. We're thinking it through. What would this actually look like in some more detail as she gives evidence in court? The files decrypt, revealing the documents. And see, we're still doing very strict cause and effect. I want to know what is the cause of the files decrypt, revealing the contents. The cause of that is that Casey dictates the code from memory and a Navy ensign types it in, which once the code is in, it causes the file to decrypt, which causes the tribunal, the judges, to verify that the documents are real and to be stunned by the scope of them, which causes the leaders of the criminal cabal to be taken away to a black site for treason. And the cause of that is Casey and Megan appear in court bandaged, probably even in wheelchairs. They got beaten up pretty badly. Okay, so you can see how we took just this and thought it through in a little more detail. Now we take the next two. The chopper is caught in the wildfire as Dancer and the governor burn alive in it. And Megan throws Casey face down in the swamp, protects him from the fire while fire roars all around them and the chopper explodes. So we're going to visualize that in a little more detail. Remember, the underlying principle here is that you gradually develop the detail as it becomes necessary. It's all about freeing you from the profusion of unnecessary detail. You don't want to get bogged down by too much detail because just this is hard enough in and of itself. It's about sophisticated problem-solving techniques where you break a problem down to manageable chunks and solve those. That's what we're doing here. We're thinking it through. We're looking at this and thinking it through again in a little more detail. So, breaking this down into detail, flames roar all around them and they can barely breathe. The helicopter explodes above them. The cause of that, the chopper tries to lift away, but the Jeep weights it down, and the flames and the wind rush through its open sides, and Dancer and the governor burn alive, screaming in the roaring hellfire. The cause of that, Megan soaks the bear hide, then throws herself on top of Casey face down on the water as the firestorm rushes in, consuming everything. See, we just thought it through in just a little more detail. This is how you do this tool. Then we take the next cause from above. She throws Casey out, then gets shot as she leaps out, crashing down onto the Jeep. She barely hooks the winch cable to the chopper's strut as it tries to lift off. Okay, so we're gonna look at that, visualize it in a little more detail, think it through in more detail. Reaching out, she just manages to grab the strut of the spinning helicopter, screaming because of her gunshot shoulder, and hooks the strut. The cause of that, she kicks away from the windshield and grabs the hook on the winch cable on the Jeep's front bumper. See, we're seeing it in a little more detail. We're visualizing it in a little more detail. The cause of that, she crashes down onto the Jeep, landing hard, and shatters the windshield. The cause of that, Megan heaves Casey out the door and, taking a bullet in the shoulder, dives out the door. So you can see we took this and we expanded upon it and still doing rigorous cause and effect. So this causes this, which causes this, which causes this. Then we take the next cause from above. She crashes the Jeep into the struggling helicopter, then leaps into it still in the flaming bear hide. So we're going to say, okay, so what would that look like? What are we actually seeing here? Without too much detail, what would that actually look like in a little more detail? You gradually develop the detail as it becomes necessary. So she mauls one of the governor's men with the bear claw and bulls him out the other side of the chopper. Because of that, she struggles to her feet on the Jeep's hood and hurls herself up into the chopper's open side door, the bear hide blazing fire. Because of that, she hits a sandbar, gets air, and crashes the Jeep full speed into the spinning chopper, getting thrown over the windshield onto the hood. Okay, so there, we just thought it through, expanded upon it. This causes this, which causes this. We're still doing rigorous cause and effect. We're never letting the unnecessary into this equation. This is like 3D printing, which is known as additive technology. You're adding on. You keep adding on. So we keep adding on, but we're adding only that which is deemed necessary by this powerful tool, reverse cause and effect, because you only want to know the cause, not what merely happened before it. So we still have rigorous and tight cause and effect here. Then we take the next cause. She hurtles down the logging road in the flaming Jeep through the forest inferno. The chopper struggles to lift off in the heavy wind as the wildfire races toward it. So we're going to say, okay, so what does that look like? How would we visualize that? Or as we visualize it more completely, what are we actually looking at? So she roars out of control toward the chopper, desperate to reach it before it gets airborne. Because of that, she sees the chopper spinning round and round in the high winds, struggling to lift off. She's afraid she's going to miss it, so she's just driving like a bat out of hell right at it. Because of that, rounding the corner on two wheels in the flaming Jeep, she skids out onto the flat. Because of that, she hurtles down the burning mountain, just speeding ahead of a flaming tree that drops across the logging road. She's on fire as she gets giant air off a dirt berm and tears the door off on a tree. So you can see I've created this section where she's like, in more detail, she just barely misses a flaming tree that's falling across the road. She tears a door off a tree because she's driving wildly, doing jumps, comes around the corner on two wheels, sees the chopper spinning, struggling to get off, roars out of control toward it, desperate to catch it before it gets airborne. So we've taken this and expanded upon it with just a little more detail. So we have a fair amount of detail here, but it's not final detail yet. So then we're going to look at this. Megan runs into a burning logging camp, her bear suit on fire, and spots an old Jeep. She roll starts it as we cut to Dancer bundling Casey into the governor's helicopter as the wind shifts. So we're going to visualize that in a little more detail. She pulls the chock from the tire, gives it a running start, then jumps in and pops the clutch and it starts. She roars off, flames trailing. Because of that, cut to Dancer savagely shoving Casey into the chopper. Because of that, Megan charges at a downed, burning tree, heaving it roughly to one side. So she's clearing the way to get the Jeep out of there. Because of that, she spots an old topless Jeep, its paint burning. Its way is blocked by a small burning tree. Because of that, she runs into a logging camp in flames. So this causes this, which causes this, which causes this, which causes this. Next step, we're going to take these two causes. She surges up over the mountaintop and drops into a pond, extinguishing the burning bear hide, then races down a logging road. Running down the burning mountain, she sees Dancer racing toward the chopper, knowing she can't possibly get there on time. So we're going to expand upon those two. Think it through in a little more detail. She spots Dancer racing to the chopper as he drags Casey along and despairs, knowing she can never get there on time. It's too far away. Her shortcut isn't working. Because of that, Megan runs down the mountain through the burning woods, sometimes falling and rolling, then comes to a ridge and sees the valley beyond, which causes her to be able to see Dancer. Because of that, spotting a logging road, she hurries down it. Because of that, she crests the mountaintop and drops into a deer pond, extinguishing the burning bear hide. She charges uphill through the forest fire, roaring with savage energy, the heavy flaming bearskin protecting her enough to stay alive. So we want to think that through again in a little more detail. She jogs steadily up the hill, pulling herself along on saplings, the bear hide flaming and the woods ablaze around her. She forges ahead, struggling up the mountain, screaming with energy and coughing in the smoke, never stopping as a copse of pines pop and sizzle nearby. So that's just a little bit of seeing her in more detail working her way up the mountain with all possible speed. And we're not pretending like, oh, it's easy. She just runs up the hill. She's wearing a heavy bear skin and running through a fire in smoke and probably up a pretty steep mountain. So then we're going to take this. In the flames, she hallucinates the nurse who sacrificed her life to save Megan, seeing her as a burning ghost. The ghost screams at Megan to keep going, that she can do it, to get up and move, keep moving, fight, you bitch. Megan explodes with adrenaline, emotions raging. So we're going to think that through in more detail. So Megan's eyes blaze as she wrenches herself out of her hellish past, now exploding with adrenaline, and she surges ahead up the mountain. The cause of that, the burning ghost screams the word fight. It's a piercing shriek that sounds above the roar of the fire. That challenges her, energizes her. The cause of that, the burning ghost shrieks at her to get up, keep moving. Megan is stunned and terrified. Then we take our next cause and expand upon that. As Megan runs uphill through the fire, she flashes back to the fire below decks on the aircraft carrier that killed her entire squad. She panics as she runs through the sailors dying in hellfire. So we're going to think that through in a little more detail, visualize it, expand upon it. She's trapped behind a wall of hellfire as rounds from a burning jet cook off and ricochet everywhere, one striking the injured surgeon she carries. Sailors in flames scream, trapped in the inferno. The cause of that is that her PTSD flashback takes over. The cause of that, trotting uphill as fast as she can, Megan fights for breath in the smoke. Ghosts of burning sailors appear in her peripheral vision, and she looks around trying to see who's screaming. So I'm fleshing out the mechanics of her flashback, her meltdown. In the middle of the fire, she flashes back to the fire she almost died in on that aircraft carrier. Okay, so if you like the class, please hit the like button. It really helps. Please subscribe so you get new classes as I put them out. And please check out my 3-month and 2-year training programs for writers at script.kitchen. I'll train you to expert capability at this tool and the rest of my 7 tools. Thanks. If you like this class, you can download this free ebook by going to this link right here and subscribing to my website.